Welcome everyone to the Marriage Hour with Henry and Lundy.
Hello.
Monday night Marriage Hour, and our special guests tonight, Garth and Lizette, which
hello.
We are very, very happy to host. I remind all of you again to, I see everyone's already doing it, but to keep your mics off, else it does get a bit noisy. But if you do have a question for Garth or Lizette, just type it into the chat box, into the comments, and we will pick those up either as we're going or afterwards. But today, the focus is really tonight, the focus is on Garth and Lizette, who we are so honored to have with us. We are really, really incredibly honored. These are two pillars of the society. I say that in so many aspects. They are pillars from a spiritual, from an emotional, and I've said this before, is if I had to look at someone to look up to for guidance, I'd start at Garth and Lizette, because they just such an inspiration in so many ways. Yeah.
A lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
And he sings like an angel.
And he sings like an angel. Maybe we can get them, convince them to sing us a duet, and we'll see. Maybe we can get Lizette to sing backings there for Garth. Hey, what do you guys think? Welcome.
Unfortunately, it will be a solo act.
Here we go.
Fantastic, guys. Really, it's such an honor and privilege to have you joining us tonight, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say and that you have to share with us, because it's so exciting. We spent some time with you as a couple, just learning more about you, and I must say, me for one, and I know afterwards Lundy spoke to me, she for another one, we were very impressed. We were very blown away and blessed with the time.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We also enjoyed the time together. We have to do it again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
All right, so we're going to kick off, and we're going to talk to you guys and ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. That all right with you?
Yeah, please go for it.
I think where we'll start is, because we're talking marriage, we need to always start at the beginning, don't we? And let's find out from you guys, how did you meet each other? How did you end up as Garth and Lizette? Tell us that story.
Yeah. But I'll start it there, because I think I initiated it. We were still in the other part of our church. For those who will know, our church set up in the sort of where the school hall is at the moment. I was walking through there one day, and we were in a single cell group at the time. And I walked past and I noticed Lizette.
I was at another cell group, so he poached me from there.
There we go. And I just noticed, well, she must be around about the same age. I saw her with somebody that I assumed would be a mom. So I just assumed, listen, she'd probably want to be in a singles group with us. It's about the same age, people who just left church. Left church. And then I invited her along, and she was brave enough to come. She said she actually didn't think she would, but then she had the courage. You might not know, but my wife was an incredible introvert at the time.
Okay.
I have since corrected that.
He's positioned.
She came around to the group, and it was, I think, after the second time or around about there. But I just thought, listen, I was the facilitator in the group, but Rob was actually leading our group at that time, the Bible study part of it. So I reached out to her, like I did with everybody else, and said, listen, can we go for a coffee? And there was no intention about it. We met where the Pick and Pay clothing is at the moment. There was a lovely coffee shop there. We just had a coffee together, started chatting, and in the conversation around there, somewhere along the line, we decided, let's go for a walk on the beach sometime, and we can just get to know each other a bit better. And it was really just friendship. So that's how the relationship started. I would say I was actively looking for a wife at the time. It was just round about that age of life. I was 26 years old. So I thought it would be a good time to get married.
Mhm.
And I had a look at other ladies at the time. And as our friendship started developing, I just realized just like I can speak with this lady about absolutely anything, and the conversation never runs dry. And this is just a wonderful person to be with. She brought out the best in me, and it was easy to build this kind of relationship. And from there on out, not long after, we started speaking about getting married. But maybe you can take over, because I know she was also praying about it.
Yeah. So just to say as well, when you said just now it was a group for young people who just left school, that's just to show how quickly time goes, because it sounds like we were 19.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was young adults. We were working, we were 26 and 27 at the time.
But I just recently left school. Yeah.
It's just the other day. Yeah, no, so we just said when we started date, or when it became a bit more serious, he actually spoke to my dad as well at some point to ask him if it would be okay for us to start dating. But yeah, I think it was just, I was, as we mentioned when we chatted the other day, I had never dated before I dated Garth. And yeah, so when it started looking a bit more serious, yeah, I was actually just praying about it and saying to God, I'm not sure how serious he is. I've got no experience in dating. I don't want to get hurt. So how much can I really invest in this relationship? How much can I reveal? And it was just the next evening when we were sitting chatting where he just said, you know what, I know we're just starting this road, but I actually think we're going to get married one day.
Oh, wow.
So it was just a beautiful confirmation from God as well, where I could then just sort of say, okay, he is really serious. This isn't just, let's go on a couple of dates and almost just have fun together. I don't know how to say it. I could invest in the relationship, if that makes sense.
And I had a bit of a checklist on my side. There was two ladies in the church at the time. Well, the one is still there, Julie, and Sue, Kevin's wife. I don't know who will know her, Kevin and Sue Robb.
Yeah.
I actually stayed with them for a time. I rented with them. And my prayer always to the Lord was at that time, as I know I was looking for a wife, I said, Lord, I want a wife like Julie and like Sue.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just expound with the Lord the kind of things that I see in these two women that I would like to see in my wife one day.
Wow.
And I can really say all of those things are there. It was sort of the characteristics are absolutely there. Yeah. And she happened to be good at finances, the same as Julie.
Hey.
Which is a bonus because I'm horrible at it.
So Lizette, you mentioned that you hadn't dated before. So what made you decide to date Garth at that stage?
I mean, look at this.
Okay, done.
What was the deciding factor? No.
Done. Next question. Look at that.
It's not that.
Okay.
As well as like emotional stuff here. Wag 'n bietjie. Wag.
Yeah, no, I think it was just, we were really just good friends. And it was a very natural progression into becoming a bit more serious then. So when we became friends, we really I wasn't looking at someone I could date, if I could put it that way. So just we started spending a lot more time together, and it was sort of out of that it was like, oh, we're spending a lot of time together. Maybe this is something a bit more. And then, as I say, when we were still sort of discussing it, and I didn't know he was going to speak to my dad about his intentions, just about dating, and that sort of took me aback, a bit. Did it maybe give it, what's it after
A surprise.
It took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting that at all, and that was sort of like, wow, this is, it was just something really, special. And then my dad was like, well, have you asked her if she wants to date you? sort of where it should go. So yeah, but it was a nice intention. And once again, I think just realizing it's not just the wishy-washy, let's go to the movies, let's go and do this. He was really, there was a seriousness in it as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was, it wasn't a conscious decision at the time to say, I am going to date him. It was really just a very natural progression from friendship to then dating. And then from there, it was quickly where it turned to engagement and marriage. So, yeah.
Okay, so I know that we discussed all these things, but I'm going to put a bit of a spanner in the works, and I'm going to ask you an off-script question, if that's all right. Yeah. You can choose not to answer it. But I'm just jumping quickly on that thing of Garth going and asking your father ahead of time.
Nice.
Because that's kind of something that's been lost. That respect for the structure of the household, and the respect for parents, and that's been very much lost in a lot of aspects. Lizette, from your perspective, first of all, if I can tap into the emotional side, how did that, besides it being a surprise, which you've told us, how did that make you feel, having known that Garth took the time to ask your father to move forward?
I don't know, because I was still living at home as well at the time. So it wasn't like I was on my own, or I don't know, I would say, if safe would be the right word. Special, valued, I'm not really sure. Important, I don't know. Can't think of all the right words now. But I think even afterwards, as we've had kids and stuff, it's something that I would want my daughter to want one day. To know that it's not someone who's just coming to take her out of the house or whatever. It's someone who's actually saying, I'm honoring your parents. I want them to be, I'm not afraid of them.
Yes.
And I think I think I sort of something courageous once again, because it's not something everyone is just doing anymore. I think you need to be quite vulnerable, and it says something about his intentions as well. Actually, I would sort of see it in the context of when we got married, that you would go and ask the father, can we get married? But to actually ask that before dating and saying, this is my intentions. I don't know. I suppose a bit of safety as well, knowing he's honouring them, and he's taking their feelings and my feelings into account.
Wow.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible.
Can I say now, I said to her the other day, because we recently only moved back into the house where she grew up.
Okay.
And standing in the kitchen the other day, a month ago or so, I said to her, I can still remember standing in this specific spot, speaking to your dad about this, and I dropped my cell phone 3 times in the conversation. And he wasn't a very daunting man. He's a really loving, kind guy. But just realizing this is a really important question, and I was sort of just fiddling and sorry.
Yeah. It makes absolute sense for me, to me. And Lizette, sorry for putting you on the spot there, but it is. I would imagine that it creates a lot of safety, and it brings a seriousness to it. This isn't just something that's going to be on the side and might work out or might not work out. This is serious, and it creates it's a commitment that I'm going to treat your daughter in a specific way, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
We've got a quick question which we're going to ask you quick. Is Garth asking to marry her? When you asked her father if you can marry Lizette, was that easier?
Because you asked her to.
Yeah, it was, because at that time already the intention was very clear.
Yes.
I had a beautiful relationship with her dad. He really, even at that time, he was already like a second dad to me. Wow. And he actually brought beautiful things out of me that my own father never did, because he was a different man. Yeah. So it was much easier at that time, because everybody could see where it was going to.
Yeah.
There was no surprise for the entire family. Most of the catering that we did together was at their house. Actually, I often sat at the braai with him alone outside. So by that time, the relationship was really established. At the time that I asked him this, because we quickly moved from out of friendship to dating to marriage, it really wasn't a long process for us. I didn't know him that well yet, and he obviously didn't know me much. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was much easier.
Yeah, it's thanks for that, Garth. It makes absolute sense that you also spent the time just making friends with the family. And that's another thing that's lost very much, is that you don't really get exposure to other people. Well, the person you intend on marrying is family.
I think it's more on the English side. I think the Afrikaans side, that's still in the heritage and the DNA. So looking at the English couples, that I think that has been lost.
And it's to me, there's just so much value in it.
Loads of value in it.
So, sorry, I know we're harboring the point, but my view on it is, it says to her father, I acknowledge that you are her covering.
Yes.
And if I intend to take that covering over, then I need to ask you. So that's basically what it is saying.
Well done. Yeah. Absolutely
It's
awesome.
exactly that.
So we go from this dating perspective, and we start looking into you, and now you're dating, and I think it was after you got engaged, you guys intently or purposefully started educating yourselves about this marriage thing. Tell us more about that. Yeah, must I shoot first? Shortly before we started getting into marriage courses, the first step we actually took was there was an opportunity to do something called the Ancient Paths, which doesn't speak to marriage specifically, but it speaks to walking in the blessing of the Lord in every phase of your life, and eventually it gets to marriage as well. And I went on the course, her knowing that, and the intention for her was to go on the second course that they then also had. It was just down the road here at West Coast Church. And I must say they've been doing it for many years, and they've been a blessing in the community. We actually made some good friends there that we still bump into. And that just brought a lot of stuff that suddenly we could talk at a much deeper level than we have before, even from our life group together. Suddenly we could speak about stuff that we've been through, that we've worked through on the course, or that it raised up in terms of dreams that we have together. And then we decided to do a marriage course together, and we went about it in a very different way. We just had this idea that we would like to do it with a couple, but we don't want to do it with close friends, either of hers or of mine. So in the church, we happened to see a couple that both of us agreed we see in them a good marriage. They walk a close road with the Lord. And we actually surprised them by going to them and saying, listen, we've got this material that we've got out of the church library. Would you mind going with us through this material before we get married? And they graciously agreed. And still, I think it was one of the best steps we ever took towards marriage, because it got us to speak about things that we would never have thought. And it got us to engage with a lot of stuff that her parents and my parents did differently. And we could suddenly get rid of those issues even before we stepped into marriage, that there was a great agreement of this is how marriage will look for us. I don't know if you want to fill up on that.
Yeah, we just said the course we did with them, they were really vulnerable as well in terms of really sharing honestly, some of the areas they struggled in, especially after getting married. I remember she told a story once where I think they were married for a month or two, and they had a fight, and she packed her stuff and she went back home. And her mom refused to open the door.
Wow.
And she said, you don't live here anymore. This is not your home. You have to go back to your husband. That's your home now. And for her to sort of make that adjustment. Shared with us, and we just said even the stuff we discussed in the materials, we had certain ideas before, not preconceived ideas, I suppose, or things you don't even think about. You think it's going to work this way, and we started going through the material, and we were like, oh, this is the sort of road we're on at the moment, but maybe it's not that good. Maybe we should take the advice they've got here and just wait a bit. I know one of them was buying a house, which would have gotten us into a lot of trouble, I think, if we bought at the time. And they just had this clear thing in the specific course about leaving and cleaving, and how important it is to struggle together in the beginning, and why you're not just going to start out where your parents started out. There needs to be a bit of struggling so that you can cleave together.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of stuff we learned there. So when we got married and some of those things would pop up, we were expecting it, but we were ready for it. It wasn't something new or something strange. We were like, oh, this is what we're talking about. So that was good.
Yeah.
So, Garth, Lizette, when you started doing these courses, obviously this was premarital. Do you believe, in your opinion, that if somebody's been married for a month, a year, 10 years, 50 years, would you say that it's too late for them to actually do these courses that you guys went on?
No, I think the sooner the better, but as long as you get to it. Yeah. For us, definitely, I don't know how marriage would have looked without it, because obviously Rob married us and he took us through premarital counseling personally as well. But I think it saved us a lot of kop stamp that we might have had beforehand. So that would have been, but still, yes, I think anybody would benefit from it. The main thing I took out of it is not so much the content, but the conversations it woke up for us. That it got us driving home, and in the car we would start speaking about, okay, so what? They spoke about finances. How will our bank account look? They spoke about parenting. Did you think about kids? How would parenting look? We spoke about parenting even before we got married.
Wow.
Just because somewhere along the line the conversation came up, and we were agreed we will have kids, but how did your parents raise you? Because the stuff sort of raised those kind of questions in us.
Yeah. What is discipline? Great. What does discipline look like?
Yeah, we spoke about that. Yeah. It just woke up a lot of good stuff that we could work through before.
That's very interesting, and I'm just going to take a step back yet again off script with you guys identifying a couple in the church. That just says so much about that couple and how they are representing.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, we could just see that they had a beautiful relationship, and it was very easy between the two of them. And by that time, their kids were already out of the house and actually moved overseas.
We never knew their kids.
So they were much longer into marriage. So for those kind of reasons, we said, this is good people. They obviously walked the road before.
Wise people.
I think a lot of couples don't realize the impact that they have just by being a good couple, by being a good married couple and representing marriage in a positive way, that there are so many people that notice that. In your case, yes, you went to the couple, but more often than not, no one mentions that to the couple. And they just carry on with their lives, not really recognizing the impact that they're having on those around them.
Or the example that they set you. Because clearly for you guys to approach them, they must have been setting a good example, and they had something that you wanted. Otherwise, you would never have gone to them.
Yeah.
But it's very encouraging to know that there are couples that are more than willing to do that. Right. So with that said, what was the biggest challenge attending a course, especially after marriage? Was it frowned upon? How was it received when you told people you're going on a marriage course?
We actually laughed when we chatted about that question, because I think because he's a pastor, I think people just sort of assume that's what we do. We just go on a lot of spiritual courses, marriage, parenting. They sort of think that's the reason we do it. not realizing you don't have to do it. It's not part of the checklist. Yeah, he gets paid to go on courses.
Yeah. No, fortunately, we've actually got her parents, my friends. Nobody in our family ever frowned upon it. Now, I think, yeah, we're fortunately probably surrounded by people who would see the benefit.
I just say to him as well, I think from a woman's side, we like to go on stuff like this. And unfortunately, a lot of times men don't necessarily, not nie om te veralgemeen nie, but a lot of time men don't want to attend it because it sort of could look like something is wrong. We really just felt it was enrichment, the same as we would do parenting courses and stuff. We were like, and not that we, it's not like we went to every, if one came along, we would go to it. But it's nice to go to different ones. Some of them would have different emphasis and stuff. But just to sort of say, we can learn anything that can sort of make something a little bit better or explain something a little bit more, make it a little bit easier. Was good. So we didn't get a lot of pushback from people attending, and I think because he attended, we actually went on 2 or 3 courses where we invited friends along.
Yeah.
And it sort of made it easy because we would say, focus on the family is coming and they're doing a marriage course. Would you like to come with us? We're going to be 2 or 3 couples going. And it would be, oh, yeah, cool. That sounds nice. Let's go. So in that regard, we could pull people along with us.
Wow.
So you almost, just through your position, were able to take the stigma out of the going to a marriage course, if I can say.
Yeah, because we humbled ourselves enough to say, hey, we're going to learn a bit. And other people were willing to say, okay, then I could probably also. And it makes it fun as well, because afterwards with your discussions, you said, yes, like me and Lizette had a chat about this. Wasn't that interesting? And they would bring something else along. Suddenly you're learning together as a community and not just,
Because what Henry and I have found is, I mean, being in marriage ministry for quite some time, is there's a resistance to going to a course or to enriching your marriage, because then the gossip stations start going, oh, they've got a problem with their marriage, that's why they're there, or they're going for coaching or counseling because there's a problem. And you know what? It's not always the case. And
see, that's why you should often go on these courses, because then people can't say there's.
Well, there we go.
Just looks like date night. Going on another course.
That said, a very good friends of ours, they attended a marriage course with the group that we were part of before. And after attending, they decided they want to get involved in this. So the first time they went, he told his partners, he's in a law firm, that he's going to this marriage thing. And then a couple of months later, they wanted him, and he said, no, I can't this weekend, I'm going to the marriage thing. And that was fine. And eventually, after the 6th, 7th time of this, his partner called him in and said, listen, I didn't realize your marriage was that bad.
You guys look okay. What's going on? In the meantime, he was helping couples. He was going around meeting not for himself, but to invest in other couples. But
So we did find that very amusing, and it's incredible just from that how often it gets pushed to the negative. And I must say that we've said it before on this platform, on many other platforms, that if we hadn't had the training we had as early, because when we first went for counseling, or not really counseling, but went to a marriage workshop, we were kind of newlyweds. We were so in love that no one could tell us anything about our marriage. Our marriage was just perfect. And we went on this course, and the value that we got out of it, so we kind of understand what you're talking about, was incredible, and the amount of conflict that it prevented.
We wouldn't be married now if it wasn't for that.
As much as we loved each other, I think just with our past and our history, and if we didn't deal with those things, we would have had a tough time to stay married if we didn't invest the time in seeking help and continue investing the time.
mean, the stats that we talk about in our workshops is 1 in 5 couples. It is 1 in 5. 1 in 5 couples make it without help.
Sure.
That's the stats, 1 in 5. And when you talk about help, it's not necessarily coaching or counseling. It's going on a marriage retreat, or it's going to get educated. So we often say to the people that we, in our workshops, we go, you guys are fine because you're getting help. So you're cool. You're part of the 1 of the 5.
Just don't bring any more, because then the stats will be.
No, we don't want to skew the stats too much. No,
we don't want to mess with those. But there is just so much value in actually doing this. And the other thing that's worth saying is, as you guys have mentioned, is you've gone to various of these. It wasn't just one course that now I've gone to the course and I don't need another course. What made you choose more than one course and go to various ones?
The opportunity, I think, and then also the people that presented it. Like, say, for instance, we worked through an Andy Stanley course called iMarriage, and Lizette listened to Andy Stanley a few times before that, and just really appreciated these teachings. So we wanted to see what he offered.
I also think the first one we did with that other couple was called The Biblical Portrait of Marriage by Bruce Wilkinson, which is really, really good. And shortly after we got married, Arnold Moll and his wife came to do a course at church for various couples. And I think it was seeing that there was a lot of similarities between the two courses, but also there was different stuff in there. The Bruce Wilkinson's one was more on the role of the man in marriage and the wife, and what does the Bible say about it. And I think the Arnold Moll one had a lot to do with temperaments, different personality types, conflict resolution, stuff like that. So it was seeing there was stuff that was the same, and then at the same time we learned so much more new stuff from the second course that we did. And I think then you sort of realize, it isn't just that one course that you do, there's more.
And at some stage, I think it was with Focus on the Family, where it was actually just on one of those tables that there is, if I remember right, we bought the Alpha Marriage course DVD set. And it just, we haven't seen it before, but we know Nicky Gumbel and his wife. So we thought, well, that must be good. And we worked our way through that ourselves.
That's just amazing,
And then after that, actually just got the pre-marriage one by them as well, which had a different flair. And that we got out of the need because we had a couple that I needed to marry that asked us, would you walk a road with us before we get married? So we used that there.
And that was then interesting, doing a pre-marriage course after you're married. And also there was a lot of value in that as well.
Wow, can you imagine?
This is a very different angle on it, especially when they spoke about...
and a lot more discussions then about what you should be discussing before you get married, which luckily we had done most of it. But it was interesting seeing on most of your marriage courses, it will focus on one area, but this pre-marriage one at a different angle of, okay, but we need to discuss this beforehand. So you look at it differently.
Yeah,
so that was good.
I enjoyed that.
So,
and then there was Love Way to a Better Marriage, which Garth brought into the men's ministry.
It upset him in the beginning.
I just said, this is such a stereotype. This is not me. I don't have a nothing box.
And then I found him in his nothing box the one day. I said, you do have a nothing box.
That was brilliant. A whole different take on it.
But just to say with that as well, because that was something they specifically did at the men's Bible study. And we at some point also just discussed and said, there's so much more value in doing marriage stuff together. You need to, even if there is maybe a separate component where you would have, but then you need the wives of the guys that are doing the marriage course, because otherwise it's just, I read this great thing and you should change this and this and this. You don't get the same impact of doing the course, hearing the same thing, because we both hear different things. Or there's different things that stand out for me than for him. So if he's the only one attending it, I think a lot of the value is lost in Yeah.
I think it could actually bring a lot of conflict into it, because suddenly I arrive and say, listen, I figured out our problem.
Yeah.
Really sound like it's you.
You the problem.
What else would I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely value in couples attending and doing things together.
Yeah.
We've got a policy, we won't coach couples, we only coach couples, should I say. We don't coach just the husband or just the wife, because you're in this journey together, and there's focus on that. Is if I'm on my own journey, how do I expect my wife to be on that journey with me if I'm not including it? And that makes it easier. Yeah,
and I think a lot of times, because it will be the wife that sort of wants to go on the course, and then I don't think the husband always just wants to hear her rattling off this all the notes she took and what needs to change or what needs to happen. But if you're listening and it's someone else saying stuff, you sort of get a conviction of, oh sure, we need to discuss this. But if it's just me going and bringing back a whole bunch of stuff, it doesn't have the same impact.
Do you find that often if one of the couple go, it becomes a blame game. It becomes you the problem and you need to do this. Whereas if they're together, a lot more introspection tends to happen, and then there's a lot more communication, which means you find a middle ground and the balance, and then you're able to walk together. Whereas if it's separate, it's you did this and you need to change this, and this is what I learned. So, because when you're there alone, you're looking to see how you can change your spouse instead of how you can change yourself.
Yeah. It's a typical thing of sitting in a sermon as well and saying, man, if only that other guy could be in here.
Or you see wives knocking the husbands and going, hey, did you hear? Did you hear, Garth, what he said? Did you hear?
Yeah, man.
And my wife does that knocking thing to me often.
So you guys need help.
Yeah.
I think we might come and spend some time with you guys in the near future. Sorry. One of the big things is it's great to go and attend these courses, but without an outpouring of the course, the impact that it has on your life, it's kind of meaningless.
Something that you can actually implement, that you take out and that you actually physically implement. Huh?
So what would you say, maybe Garth first and then Lizette, was that one thing out of all this learning that you did that impacted you tremendously, that you implemented into your marriage, into your family, that benefited you greatly?
We've actually got a couple of pictures in our mind, isn't it? Because over the years, I just know we refer back to the same things, whether it's in conversations with friends or between the two of us. I think off the cuff, if I must think of two of them, one of them was the Alpha Marriage course that they said you make a 9 o'clock rule. And afterwards we realized, for me it needs to be at 8 o'clock rule, because I go to bed a bit earlier, easier. And it just said there's no conflict after 9 o'clock. If you had conflict and it's coming up to 9 o'clock, you just say 9 o'clock rule. Sorry, we cannot fight about this now. Sorry, we have to put it to bed. Let's speak about it. And then you actually have to make a time. You say, so tomorrow, let's meet each other for lunch and we'll speak about it. Or over the weekend, let's be quiet or go for a walk and let's speak about it. So you cannot just stop it with a 9 o'clock rule. You have to set a time then. When will this be discussed? But the basic principle it is there's a time of the day.
Don't fight too late in the evening.
It's just not good.
No one's going to win.
You're tired, you're exhausted, you're fed up, and it's not going to work out.
And I think we had to say that, especially when we had the kids, because now I've been at work for the whole day. He's been at work. Now there's this niggly thing. You've been busy with the kids, trying to get them fed and bathed and into bed. And now the first words we can say to each other, because now it's 9 o'clock, is, if you then had to get into it, I mean,
it's not going to be good. And that was really, I think, early days, there was 2-3 times that we sort of brought it up, and it's just an understanding. Listen, nighttime is not for this, And then the other thing I must say is, who was it that spoke about, was it Andy Stanley who spoke about the slice of the cake?
Yes.
And it was really just a practical thing that he said, listen, in any conflict situation, own your slice. So generally my feeling would be is she doesn't agree with me, she is wrong, so the entire pizza is hers. But his principle is that's never going to solve any conflict in any relationship, and especially in marriage. Because ultimately I need to see that something of this, even if it's just a sliver of it, is me. And I need to come to the conversation and say, Lizette, I understand that when I spoke about this, I was rude. Even though I fully agree still that it needed to be addressed, at least if I can just say,
I'm sorry for being rude.
I'm sorry for being rude. Suddenly it opens up the door in her heart to listen, because I'm at least humble enough to admit that I've got an issue over here. So yeah, I see Tinas and Annery also appreciate the 9 o'clock rule. It is good. Yeah. So, but the whole thing of that is it's just coming with humility to any conflict. And I think it was touching on that as well. In the Alpha Marriage course, they spoke about put the thing on the table, which is a very general conflict rule. But in other words, address the problem, not the person. So it sort of touches on the same kind of thing. Just the humility to say that there's a problem and I'm part of the problem, and I admit and I apologize for that. Yeah.
I must say one I really liked was Joyce Meyer, and one of her talks I listened to where she spoke about being right is overrated. And and it's almost that choose your battles, and just saying, is being right worth all of this? If there's a disagreement or whatever, because I could be right and you could be unreasonable, but am I, is it for that specific problem? Is it willing to really go at it and break relationship? Or is there maybe just a space to say, I'm going to leave this for now. We'll both cool off, and afterwards we could sometimes, we would have discussions where you would go, or I would come back and say, you know what, without there being an argument, coming back the next day or something and saying, I thought about this again, and actually you were right yesterday. Where if we'd gone at it, then he wants to be right, I want to be right, and
you're both wrong.
And then we're both wrong.
You break the relationship. I think it was Andy Stanley that got to that point as well, that just said we are one, and therefore if I win the argument I can actually lose.
You've lost it. I mean,
that's really, we're on the same side, or we should be on the same side. We're in this together, and the enemy is constantly trying to put a barrier between us. So don't give him the opportunity to put that there. Not to say there should never be any conflict, but just, is it worth it? Is it worth breaking a relationship? Is it worth being mean at some point? So is there just a space to step back for a bit and say, just hang on, let's think about this rationally.
There was another thing that Lizette actually took out of one of the courses, or both of us, but it set her off on a path with our kids for later, because it spoke about personalities, recognizing the fact that we're different. And I think it kicked off with that, was it Nikki Gumbel that spoke about the characters, the rhino and the hedgehog. And it set her off on a path that I think still today in your relationship with moms, in the fellow moms group, is one of the main things that we look at parenting as well.
Yeah, and I think with our kids, realizing he's different, so our kids must be different as well. And just seeing how when you interact with them differently, whether it be their love language or whether it be just their temperament type. But when you interact with that, I almost want to say temperament specific, just how it really builds the relationship again. And we especially saw that in our marriage when it came to conflict and different things, just realizing, putting myself in his shoes, or just taking a step back and saying he's not, I think that was also Andy Stanley, expecting the best.
Yes, that's a beautiful one.
To sort of say, he had this one example where he said, your husband can phone and say he's going to be late for dinner, And either I can expect the worst and go, oh, he's late again. He never worries about whether I put dinner on the table, Or I can go expect the best and say, you know what, I'm sure he would have loved to be with his family tonight. He's probably got a crisis at work. Not to go into the negative first, but to sort of, expect the best from him.
Yeah.
So that was just with the different personality types and the different conflict and whatever, to realize we are different. So when we don't agree on something, or when he's not acting like I would act in the situation, it's not because he doesn't love me. He's acting from just in his personality type. Not that it's an excuse for some stuff, but just realizing he still loves me. It's not a personal attack. He's just processing different than I'm processing.
We've got a few principles. One of the principles we use is the whole principle, that you never get into conflict when you're hungry, angry, late, or tired.
Yep.
Yes.
He gets hangry.
Angry. Yeah. Because any one of those are just looking for trouble. You're looking for a fight then. You're not looking for a resolution.
Because then you're dealing with the emotional side, and you can't fight with the emotional side. You need to fight with the emotional side.
So very much that 9 o'clock rule sounds very much
good.
right on par there, which also gets you to a point where you're not going to bed angry. And that's a big tester, because I know for me, when I get tired, I'm tired and I'm miserable and I want to sleep. There's no negotiation with me.
Nope.
And I can imagine if I get into an argument at 10 o'clock at night, halfway through I'm going to say I'm tired and I'm going to go to sleep.
Or you'll fall asleep mid-argument.
I would.
Yes.
I actually would.
And then she will finish it and she will win it. That's not good.
But that's my angle, God. That's my angle. That's why I started late, because then I'll win.
And she will tell me exactly how I lost it.
Yeah.
Now, I would say shortly after we got married, and it took me a while to see what the pattern was, I would get very offended when he gets home and he starts watering the garden. And I go and start chatting about my day, and he's not really that into the conversation, or he gets home and he just wants to make a sandwich, and I offered to make the sandwich, and he's like, just leave me alone, I will make the sandwich. And I was like, oh my word, who is this person? Until I saw the pattern and realized he was hungry, or he needed to switch once again, but realizing we're different, and just seeing, okay, if he waters the garden for 5 minutes and he comes in, we have the most delightful conversation. So I just needed to leave him alone, or when he wants to make his own sandwich, let him make his own sandwich. Just get out of the way.
I remember once saying to her, you don't do it quick enough.
Okay.
I don't need tomato and cheese and mayonnaise on this sandwich right now. I just need to put something in my mouth.
I'm hungry.
So I felt a bit hurt and rejected. But once again, you can either get offended and or feel rejected and be angry, or it was sort of, you know what, when he gets home, he's got his little routine, the same as I've got my own things. I know in the fellow moms group, we often speak about, you always notice when your spouse is doing something wrong, whether it be socks on the floor or whatever. And then they went on a church conference to Fishhook for a weekend. And I realized how many cupboards, I cannot close cupboard doors or drawers. I leave them open constantly.
It's a woman thing.
And in the group, and sent it to them. And I just said, I realized how many times he closes cupboard doors without being ugly or without being mean. He never says anything. He just closes them. Wherever I've been, I get back later and they're closed. And it was never like, you always leave open the cupboard doors, or you always. So it's just the same way they can do irritating things, I do irritating things. And we must have a little bit of grace with one another.
I can't remember an example like that. I must be perfect.
Must be.
Listen, can I just, before we go off this point, Henry, it's not a course as such, but I really have to say this is one of the things that I've noticed in myself, that trying to get deliverance for something. I had jealousy that I had to deal with. And I didn't pick it up early in my marriage.
And not with guys.
No, not with guys at all. So when the kids came along, even with that, I was quite all right. But Lizette started building a relationship with a lot of ladies. And she would spend time with those ladies. And it was necessary for her as well. I think it was 3 times. They just went away for a weekend. And just as a mom's group, just so that all of them can have a break and they can have a time to build into one another and stuff like that. And bit by bit, I really started resenting this. And I didn't see it for what it was. And I just realized it was such a big deal that the Lord had to come and show me, listen, Garth, you have jealousy in your heart towards her friends. Yeah. And you need to deal with that. And it wasn't her problem. It was my problem to deal with, and I had to get deliverance for it. And I think that would have been a real crisis if I didn't deal with it, because that's not something that would go away. It's something that might resurface, and it will get worse and worse. Yeah, and it would break a relationship between us, or I would start isolating her from the people that the Lord desired her to minister to. So it would have had far-reaching effects. It's not a course as such, but we have to say that as well. If you don't deal with your stuff, your marriage is gonna, it's gonna crumble.
Yeah, thanks for that, Garth. Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that, because yes, in a marriage we have us stuff and we have me stuff. And dealing with that me stuff normally would get rid of the us stuff. Generally speaking. And thanks for that. A lot of times it means that you need to deal with that alone through introspection, and sometimes it's more than that, and you have to go speak to someone, and you need deliverance, or you need to be able to take yourself from that position and pulled out of it. And deliverance is a great tool for that. We absolutely believe in that. We also believe in couples deliverance and self-deliverance. Those are offsprings, but sometimes there are really those that you need to sit with. But it's all based on a trust relationship with your partner. Because if I'm in a good space and I've built up such a positive environment in our relationship, Lundy would feel safe to come to me and say, Henry, I've noticed that this is an issue for you. I think you need help. And because it's safe here, I'm not going to take offense. And I'm going to be okay with that, because I'm not going to see her as the enemy. And you guys touched on that, is a relationship, a marriage is not a war. It is the same team. It's people on the same team fighting the same fight. And we often confuse it and say the person sitting next to me is my opposition.
They're not.
And they never are. And you guys touched on that and described that so amazingly, that the person sitting next to you, the person you chose to marry, the person you chose when you asked them to marry you, is actually on your side.
They should be.
And well, if they're not on your side, they should have never said yes.
No.
That's a scary part.
I love that saying that marriage is 100-100 and divorce is 50-50. So you need to be giving 100% of yourself into the marriage. And it's not a case of nitpicking to say, why aren't you giving? If you're giving 100%, then your spouse will. If he loves you or she loves you, there will be 100% giving of yourself. And it's a dying to self. It's a self-sacrifice within a marriage. Because how can you do it when you're walking a path with God, if you can't even do it here? I mean, this is the trial for when it comes to fetch his bride. If you can't get it right here, how are you going to get it right there? That's one of the light bulbs that we had right in the beginning.
Yes. Absolutely.
We also, before we got married, when we did our thing with Rob, and he speaks about the whole Ephesians 5, the love and submit, and we actually chatted about that the one day as well, where he was he just said, the women almost get the easier part. It's the one they always want to leave out of the thing that we have to submit. But for the husbands to love you that way and to to bring you blame. He needs to really invest in me to bring me blameless before God one day.
Yes.
And I just have to submit and trust that he's loving me. We can have discussions about stuff. But yeah, sometimes ultimately when the decision needs to be made and it's not the one I would make, I still need to be able to say, you know what, I trust that you love me and you're doing this in our best interest. So yeah, you're not doing something to hurt me or to hurt our kids, even if it is the wrong decision. You need to, I think that the one course, the one we did in the beginning, the lady also said she was really, for the first year of her marriage, she was really getting this submission thing, was really actually going easy. And she thought she had it made until the first time they disagreed. To submit.
There was no submission.
But we still, and her thing was just, but she had to say, he loves me. He's not doing this. He really believes this is the best decision. He really believes he's hearing God in this. So, and we've often had that where, we don't necessarily always agree, but I can honestly say it's never been difficult to submit to where he's leading, because in that regard, I just say, you know what, if you feel this is the right thing, that's fine. Then we go with it. But there's that trust.
I think I'm going to quickly jump on this part about looking at Ephesians 5 and all the rest of that, and just bring it all together with what you've said for the past hour or so, is that by being obedient to what the word says and the training that you get so often through these courses, through wise people that speak into your lives, through pastors like Rob, and going for deliverance and things like that, and being obedient to the call. Wouldn't you agree that they, like you have been, and I just listened to you and the discussions we had previously for hours, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Wouldn't you agree that obedience has blessed your relationship in incredible ways?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, really, and in humility, I mean, we haven't got it all right, but really, I think just the humbleness and teachability towards others have really benefited us, because I think it saved us a lot of headache, and it brought us through a lot of things that might have worked out very, very harder. Just the insight to know, okay, this guy spoke about this, let's try that approach. And then also because we have the same mindset on marriage, because we've been through it together, speaking about it often. That really did.
Okay, and then as we're busy wrapping up, sorry, Lizette, any last words that you want to share with those that are going to watch this, those that are watching it, those that may hear it? Any last words that you would like to leave them with?
I don't know. I don't know. I just think, marriage is a blessing. I think it gets a lot of bad press. And I don't know, it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be, once again, sometimes you read a lot of stuff or you hear a lot of stuff and people are, it's the most difficult thing. We've honestly said we've never felt that way. I know, we've spoken with Rob and them about it before as well. I can honestly say there's never been a day where I've sort of said, I wish I never got married. I wish we weren't married, even if it isn't when you haven't had sleep because the kids have been awake and crying and whatever. In all of that, I've always just felt it's still a blessing. And I'm glad I'm doing this with him. We said with the lockdown as well, it was nice to know that I actually like my husband.
Oh, wow.
I still enjoy spending, there were frustrations and there were a lot of different things, but all in all, I really liked spending the time with him. It wasn't like, I wish you can just leave the house or whatever. We enjoyed each other's company. It's something I would recommend. I enjoy marriage. From
my side, I can just say, I respect Lizette in the way that she passes over a lot of the stuff that we've learned in marriage, but also in parenting. It's something that she just takes naturally to. So we've just found that as much as we try to learn ourselves, it's a real privilege to hand that over then with the stories that we have, whether it be in life groups or whether it be at camps, sitting around a fire and stuff. We just, it's lovely having those kind of conversations that, you know, I've learned things, and it's these, like you guys with the island picture, we've all got these kind of nuggets that we've picked up along the way, and it's easy to hand over because it's in picture form, but then it comes with a testimony of this is how we've experienced that. So it's really a delight to pass it on, knowing that it's been worthwhile for us to
and
learn
it's benefiting
it.
other people.
Yeah.
And it's speaking into other people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. Fiona has really thanked you for being so teachable and being able to learn from you, from your honesty. We appreciate that, Fiona. Garth, Lizette, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate listening to you. We appreciated the time, and for you to set the time aside to speak to us and share.
And to invest in other people's marriages. Thank you very much for your time. We honor you, and we pray a blessing over the two of you as individuals, but also your marriage and your family. And we thank you for who you are, and we honor you.
And
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure. And then with that, I'll remind you all that we are on Facebook, Doing Marriage with Henry and Lundy. You can view these recordings on YouTube, Doing Marriage with Henry and Lundy. If you have any questions, now's the time to put them out there. Thank you, Tinus and Henry, for your comments on building marriage on a godly principle. I absolutely agree with that. Yes. That's where it starts. And get in touch. Let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what you think. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I remind you that we do one-on-one coaching, marriage coaching. If you do know anyone, or if you yourselves need that, please get in touch with us. Once again, from Henry and Lundy and Garth and Lizette, thank you everyone so much, and thank you Garth and Lizette.
It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.